Welcome to another edition of Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast. I'm Captain Rick Riles. Hey, we're going to have a lot of fun. Here's what we're going to do first. We're going to head out to Paradise real quick to get a blue water report from none other than Nosara, Costa Rica. I just came back from a dream trip over there. I can't get over it. I want to see what's been going on since. Then we're coming to the northeast corner of Florida. We're going to work our way down the coast, up the west coast, and out the panhandle, finding out what's biting where. I've also got a question for the guys, like I do every week, about how we can make beginning fishermen better. So tune in for that, too. Hey, Florida Sportsman Action Spotter Podcast is brought to you this week and every week by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature together. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara, Paradise Rentals. By D.O.A. Lures, the unfair advantage. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. Let's get rolling. We're headed to Nosara, Costa Rica. All right, we're going to get our trip kicked off tonight by heading over to Nosara and checking in with one Craig Sutton. Craig, how are you?
I'm good, Captain Ricky. Real good, buddy.
Good, good. Hey, you know what? I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
All right. When I am long held to believe, even though the meteorologists argue with me, that September, October, and maybe even November, that we get northeasters on the full moon. A, do you agree or disagree? And B, what does the full moon do in Costa Rica?
Does the same thing. And I agree here. And also the new moon will bring them on. Just it doesn't seem like their average is as strong, but the new moon does too. And in Costa Rica, the rainy season starts the full moon the end of August to the 1st of September. This year it was the 23rd.
Huh.
And it started in earnest, and especially to the southern part of Costa Rica. They got pounded for about 3 days straight. And that's what kind of, when I got there right after that moon, it kind of messed up the water for me and just turned it into an inshore fishery.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then it'll peak it will have another peak in September full moon. Then the October full moon this year, I believe the 19th. I believe that's going to be pretty much the end of a rainy season. Normally it is. Now, we'll get a few showers post full moon, but nothing like we'll get, around that full moon phase. And it's just, it's time for us. We got the boats out of the water. We're doing a bunch of maintenance on them. We're jerking the gas tanks out of the boat, both big boats, and redone the gas tank system and the harvester, and painting the blue on those two big boats and fixing some fiberglass here and there. It's last year with the COVID, we didn't do our normal maintenance because we've been in the water since March. We just kind of did the basic stuff and put them back in the water. And so we've got double maintenance this year.
I would like to state for the record that I am responsible for none of the dings in your fiberglass.
Well, how about you were on board when that marlin shoved his bill through the lower cowling on that Yamaha.
That's not my fault. All I was doing was turning the fighting chair. Well, I know your captains are chomping at the bit, and I'm sure you are too, to get back on the fish down there, because it was certainly a spectacular summer. I mean to tell you.
It was a good year. We did less trips than I thought. I thought we were talking around 800. We did 755. We caught way over. I think we had like 11 or 1,200 sailfish and right at 200 marlin.
Oh my goodness,
for the year. So
that's fantastic.
That was a good. But for us, I think our fishery, because I look at our competitions reports and stuff, our fishery seems to have more variety. Where the guys in the south part of Costa Rica, Guatemala, they'll catch nothing but sailfish, and we'll always have 2 or 3 mahi, 4 or 5 yellowfin. And, a mixture, which I like that, and I think the clients like it too, but it always amazes me how we have a lot of variety to our fisheries. So those billfish numbers are just part of the great picture.
Yeah, oh, no doubt, no doubt. And, then you add the fact that you've got variety just in marlin. You've got stripes, blacks, and blues, and that makes for a lot of difference.
What's your favorite one, Rick?
Favorite billfish?
Of marlin.
I like the blues the best. I really do. The whites to me are fancy sailfish. I haven't caught a stripe, so I don't know about that. But I gotta tell you, when you can go down there, and Craig, you and I have done some marlin fishing out of here. We're gonna do some more, but we know the deck is always stacked against us. It ain't stacked against you down there, brother.
No sirree, buddy. No sirree.
I mean, you got to look for them all the time.
That video of Heidi Marlin, the one that shoved his bill through the lower cowling on our motors, but that was a typical blue marlin.
That was fantastic.
Never gave up.
What a great active fish! Yep.
Oh my gosh, he was insane. But I used to be a black marlin guy, and until I caught 4 or 5 good blues, and I've caught some nice sizes in those 450s. And those guys don't ever get tired. You can't break the will like you can with the black.
Yeah. Nope, they don't give up. Craigie, we appreciate it. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Absolutely. I'll be looking forward to it, Ricky.
Thank you, pal. Craig Sutton from Nosara Paradise Fishing. Time to hit Northeast Florida. Let's check in with our expert inshore guide in Northeast Florida, Captain David Borges. David, how are you?
Hey, Rick, I'm doing good, buddy.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Have you fished since we talked last?
Man, let me tell you, it was a phenomenal day today. I fished all day this week, and it's been a little slow. We had that northeast wind, which sort of held water in, didn't let the water get very low, so the fish sort of stayed off the main channel and stayed back onto the flats where you couldn't really get to them. But today that water really dropped out, and let me tell you, the fish were chewing today like I haven't seen. Water temperatures are down quite a bit, about 2 to 3 degrees, which is quite a bit when it comes to water temperature.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we see a 2 or 3 temperature drop, and that's usually a good sign for us. The mullet are just stacked up everywhere. I've never seen so much bait right now. We still have all the summer species here, the ladyfish, the jacks, everything's still here, which means you can just go out and have a banner day this time of year. And today was one of those days, Rick.
That's fantastic, David. I'm a little surprised to see the Jackson ladyfish still hanging in here, but it's not October yet, so.
No, and the water hadn't gotten quite that cold, you know. And this is a time of year I want to mention, too, that we get those flooded tides. Now, this month has been sort of unusual. I talked to a few guys that a lot of our good floods this month actually happened at night, and which wasn't good for fishing. I did fish one flood tide this week and did see some tails and some fish, and actually got 2. But for the most part, I've been fishing this low tide early in the morning. And, you know, this time of year, you really want to pick your tides. It's so important. I can't stress tides enough, you know, up here. But more so this time of year, I think, than any other time of the year. You know, if you're watching the weather, you're watching the temperatures and things like that, things are starting to move. But really keep your eye on those good tides. If you get a really, really good low tide this time of year, that's going to happen about, let's say 10 o'clock in the morning, somewhere around there, you're probably going to have a pretty good morning.
David, do you very often see them crawling the bank that late in the morning, or that's usually more of a 6 to 8 a.m. thing?
We did see some today.
Did you?
We did. Yeah, we saw some crawling today. They weren't the ones we wanted to see. They weren't really big, you know. The first spot I went to was a shallow water spot, and, you know, I just wasn't seeing what I wanted to see in the shallow water. Mm-hmm. We saw a little feeding, a little activity, but we weren't seeing the big reds. So, you know, my second move, you know, I go shallow. My next move is I go deep. And the next spot we went to was just absolutely gangbuster. And I knew then we were seeing everything we wanted to see. And in this particular area, it wasn't like a flat where you have a huge area of shallow water. This area was more like a bank, and it was close to the mouth of a creek, which is one of my favorite things. But it was right on the edge of deep water. And what these fish tend to do is a lot of times they hang in that deep water, but then when they're ready to eat, they run up into that shallow water where it's about a foot deep, and they grab those mullet. And usually when you see that kind of action, you just hang around that bank, and you're gonna catch some good fish.
Gotcha. Hey, I got a question for you. All
Yeah,
right,
go ahead.
A buddy of yours just bought a new boat, just like yours, wants to be an inshore fisherman, and he says he's got all the tackle. He went to Strike Zone and all that, and he's got all his safety equipment. He's invited you along on the maiden voyage. What are you going to take to help ensure your success on that trip?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a really good question. I really, I'm sort of a real simple guy, Rick. I don't like to complicate things. I keep things very simple. And one thing I've noticed with a lot of guys, a lot of young guys, and a lot of new guys they really like to complicate things with all kinds of stuff. I'm a jig fisherman. You give me a 1/4 ounce jig. I've always said if I was stranded on an island, I only had one lure to fish, it would be a jig. And the reason I like jigs is because I can cast it a long distance. I can cover different parts of the water column. I can swim it up high, cover the surface, or I can drop it down in 20, 30 feet of water and work deep water. So it allows me to cover the entire water column, and it's sort of all in one. It's got the weight, it's got the hook. So, you don't have to do the fish finder rig where you got the weight, the swivel, the hook, and all this stuff. This is sort of all built in, all in one. You can put plastic on it and make it artificial, or you can put live bait on it and fish it for live bait. Yep. So it's such a versatile tool, and I feel like if it's not on a boat, man, take me home. Take me home right now, because I have to have it.
Yeah, and chances are, if you're a first-timer, you're new at it, you're going to see the jig that you want, so you're going to buy 4 of them. And you and I have both had days where you went through 4 in the first 15 minutes.
Absolutely.
That's a great answer, David. Thank you so much. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Absolutely, Rick. And next week, I want to talk about what kind of high tides I'm looking for, what I'm looking for when we go after when we look for these fish in the grass on these flood tides. The numbers I'm looking for, the moon phase, and all that stuff. And we'll talk about that next week.
Please do. We'll talk about full moon fishing, not necessarily full moon fishing, but flooded grass fishing, when you can count on the grass flooding. Thank you, David.
All right. Tight lines, Ricky.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye. Our thanks to David Voorhees for a great Northeast Florida report. Now, let's check in with Central Florida and ask Jim Ross if the mullet have made it down the beach that far yet. Jim, are you with us?
Yes, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I don't think you heard me. I was wondering if the mullet have shown up that far down yet.
Oh, they have started to show up. Not in really, really good numbers just yet, but the swell really kind of got them going here. We had a little trickle last week, and the swells kind of got them going a little bit better this week. As soon as we get a good cold front, I think that's going to complete the trifecta and really get the silver mullet and black mullet running down the beach, down the surf, and also back in our lagoons.
Yeah, I agree. Tell me about your fishing.
Well, redfish have started to come out of the backwaters. You've had a lot more rain here the last couple of weeks, and it's starting to pile up now. So we're getting those smaller redfish. I was kind of surprised, Rick. We got some juvenile redfish, some little, 8, 9, 10 inches.
Buddy, we have seen a ton of them up here in Jacksonville.
Well, that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. That tells me that the lagoons and areas are, those fish are breeding. They bred last year. That these, 8, 9, 10 inches are starting to show up. And, now the water's come up. They've opened the culvert pipes a little bit so that the water can flow into them and flood the marshes around the Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge. That's a way that they control the mosquito population. They actually let the water fill up those culvert pipes and then covers the mud, because the mosquitoes the saltwater mosquitoes actually lay eggs in the mud. So, make a long story short, the culvert pipes are open, and all the little redfish that were all back in those little marsh ponds and things have started to come out into the lagoon and start to chase the glass minnows around, the finger mullet around, and they're actually hitting topwater plugs. They remind me of little 10 to 12-inch speckled trout, where they'll chase a 6-inch, 5-6 inch topwater plug like a skitter walk or one of those style lures, and think that they're going to eat it. So they've got the right attitude to grow up into big bulls.
I've always wondered what makes them think they can handle that. I caught one on a Zara spook one night, Jimmy. I swear he wasn't any bigger than the Zara spook. And I'm like, what did you think you were going to do with that thing if you did hold on to it? I don't know what they think.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
But that's a good sign. Our trout bite has been fairly consistent as long as you stay around the mullet pods. And then along the beaches, we still have the snook, we still have the tarpon. The sharks have been pretty good even through this groundswell. So we can't complain a whole lot. It's been pretty good. The other surprising thing, the guys that are offshore have started to pick up more wahoo. After the first storm went by a couple of weeks ago, and then after this last one, Larry went by, there's been a lot more wahoo activity, which we normally don't particularly see. But hey, we'll take it.
Yeah, that's outstanding. Yeah, maybe time to go trolling. I normally in September it's a long time between bites, but a couple 3-4 wahoo make you a fine day. That's for sure.
Exactly.
Jim, we appreciate the heck out of it. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
I'm looking forward to it, Rick.
Good deal. Captain Jim Ross. Now let's jump on down the coast a little ways and check in with John Earhart to see what's happening in Stewart. John, are you with us?
Yes, sir. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you, son. How's everything in Stewart, Florida?
Let's talk offshore fishing first.
Okay.
It's been pretty steady. It seems like we're starting to see some migrating schools of mahi in our area. This action's going to be a pretty good ways out. We're seeing these fish 900, 1,000, 1,500 feet of water right now. But if you make the travel out there, it seems like you're going to catch your limit if you want to keep a limit of smaller fish. These are 5 to 10 pound fish, but if you go out there, you're usually going to be rewarded with your limit of mahi right now, which is a welcome sight. And Stewart we don't tend to get a whole lot of them closer to shore in the 90, 110 feet like you would expect in most regions. So if you want to capitalize on the mahi and you don't mind going out a little bit further, now seems like an excellent time to capitalize on these fish that are pretty much right in front of the Treasure Coast.
John, how far is it out to 1,000 feet in your water?
It's about 18 miles.
Okay. All right.
So, it's a little bit of a hike. It's not terrible if you got a fast boat, but if you got a slow boat, it's going to take you a little while to get there. And the ocean's got to be, somewhat calm if you're going to make a fast run out there quickly.
Understand. Anything else going on offshore?
We're still catching some sailfish near shore. It seems like that action's been like 50 to 90 feet of water. There's been a few blackfin tunas here and there, a lot of bonitas, a stray cobia here and there. It's been kind of unpredictable, but you'll catch them while you're slow trolling live baits or drifting live baits in that 70 to 90 foot range. And, we get a stray mahi here and there too as well, but most of the mahis have been out deep. The bottom fishing's been pretty consistent. Vermilion snappers, mutton snappers, mangroves. You just got to match the lead to the amount of current of that day. We're fishing fish finder rigs with typically 8 to 12 ounces of lead and a dead or live sardine if you can come by it. There's still been some bait fish around, so we're still catching sardines, greenies. I've been catching a few goggle eyes. And then a lot of cigar minnows, too. So there is still some bait around. You just got to work through all the hornbellies to get the actual desired bait.
Yes, and by the way, they call them hornbellies for a reason. They will hurt you if you grab them by the belly. There ain't no doubt about that. They're pretty to look at, but they're not the bait you're looking for. Anything much happening inshore?
Inshore fishing's been pretty consistent. I'm starting to see a mullet run starting, so that's really good news. A lot of finger mullets, a few larger 9 to 11 inch mullets, and we've had a lot of action. The snook bite's been phenomenal, as we'd expect this time of year, catching a lot of jack crevalles, a few redfish, and a lot of tarpon right now. So you got a good mixed bag. You got plenty of bait around. It's great time to take advantage of inshore fishing, especially if the wind conditions aren't allowing you to get offshore. There's still plenty of action inshore right now as well.
Excellent. Excellent. John, we can't thank you enough. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Yes, sir. I look forward to giving you a report next week.
You got it. Captain John Earhart from the Chaos and the Mayhem in Stuart, Florida. Time to go to Miami and see what Captain Alan Sherman's up to. Alan, how are you?
I'm okay, Rick, and yourself?
I'm doing fine, buddy. I'm doing fine. You know what? It's actually dried out up here. We haven't had a good rain in almost a week now.
And now we're getting it every day. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
Well, we're saying goodbye to summertime. The mullet have made it as far as Stuart. Have they made it as far as Miami yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're starting to see some pilchard schools. Still a lot of the small ones, but at least there's some bait in the bay and along the beaches, which we haven't had for a while. I mean, in the last week and a half or two, there's been bait fish schools up and down the coast and in the bay, but most of them are really, really small, like the summer pilchards that you see on the beaches. But the fishing wise, it's been spotty. On the offshore side, there's been some bonitas, some kingfish, a few wahoo, a few blackfin tunas, more bonitas than anything, but a little bit of action, just outside the outer reef with some live bait fish, fresh ballyhoo, fresh, frozen Spanish sardines and vertical jigs. The guys working those rigs are doing fairly well. And a little further out, scattered dolphin. There hasn't been any real consistent dolphin fishing for over 2 weeks now. Guys fishing just for anything. The kingfish, the blackfin tunas, all of a sudden a single dolphin comes up and eats a bait. But other than that, not too much on the dolphin scene.
Funny, they showed up real strong from about, Lauderdale to Jupiter during last week, but nowhere else. They're not doing much north of there, and they're not doing much south of there.
Yeah, I don't know, Rick, where those dolphin came from. Although, last week there were schools of dolphin offshore. They just weren't under anything. There wasn't any floating debris. There really wasn't any weed lines. If you had trollers out and you just started trolling from like 600 on out, you might bump into a school. I know we did, but it was only one school, and we saw nothing the rest of the day. So I don't know. Somebody off of Lauderdale got lucky and did well, but for the most part, it's been tough going for mahi out there.
Gotcha.
But the sword fishing's been good offshore. The guys fishing the 1,800-foot areas during the daytime with baits on the bottom. They've been consistently catching pretty good-sized swordfish during the daytime. Over the wrecks, there's been big amberjacks and quite a few of them, a few gag groupers. Live pinfish have been the top bait, but if you could come up with some live ballyhoo or even some big threadfin herring, they're eating those as well. Inside in the bay, on these bait fish schools, there's been small blue runners, a few large jack crevalles, a lot of, just legal or under size mangrove snappers, and then a few snook and small tarpon. So there's been some action. The bone fishing's been good in South Bay, mostly over the oceanside flats between Soldiers Key and Elliott Key. The guys are doing really well on the bone fishing on the incoming tides. And that kind of wraps it up for us here.
Alan, does it seem to you like bone fishing is not quite the rage that it was a few years ago? Is that right?
Well, I don't have a bone fishing boat anymore. Many years ago I did. Bait fishing is more my thing and not really skinny water. But down off of Key Biscayne, there's a half a dozen guides that do this, daily.
Yeah.
And they've got a good following of customers. When I'm out there, fishing finger channels or fishing parts of the bay, I'll see these guys out there. So, yeah, there is a pretty good amount of people that are still targeting them. And, you know, after the 2010 freeze, it took a long time for those bonefish to come back. But they came back first off of Key Biscayne, you know, off of South Bay. And the populations have really rebounded, and the guys are doing very well on them.
Good
you know,
deal.
it's a catch and release fishery too.
Yeah.
So, you know, they
Should
get to
help it over the
reproduce.
years. Yeah.
That's right.
Alan, we appreciate it as always. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Anytime, Rick.
All
See you
right,
then.
you got it, buddy. Captain Alan Sherman from Miami. Hey, now how about a word from Shimano? The year was 1953 when one of the true pioneers of big game fishing just hung it up. No, it wasn't any of us. It was none other than Ernest Hemingway. I just don't want to do it anymore, he's credited with saying. The tackle has become so sophisticated that the fish just don't have a chance. Can you imagine walking him through the aisles of strike zone fishing and showing him the latest and greatest from Shimano? Can you imagine handing him a Saragossa spinner that weighed less than his bait did and could put more torque on a rampaging tuna than the giant old reels of his day? No, Ernest, I'm afraid you left us way too early. The fights with the great fish still go on today, and sometimes we still get beat. But if I were a sea monster of your day, I still think I'd rather do battle with you than face the great tools that Shimano has stocked in the shelves at Strike Zone some 68 years later. All right, we're done with the East Coast. Let's hop over to the West Coast, stop in 10,000 Islands, and check in with Captain Steve Dahl. Are you out on parole, Steve?
Yeah, I'm finally out. It's
good. Good. That ankle bracelet monitor's not so bad, is it?
Yeah, right.
No, I promise you, folks, I'm messing with him. Steve Dahl has not been arrested.
I have not.
Tell me what's going yet. Let's throw yet in there, okay? Tell me what's going on fish-wise for you.
Well, we're doing pretty good. I mean, it's we've had a little bit of wind coming out of the west here, and you know, but that's kind of kicking things up offshore. So offshore reports are kind of spotty. Yellowtail snapper, big mangroves have been in the mix offshore. Guys really aren't pushing the boundaries, though. As you know, everybody knows you got to go quite a ways to get some super deep water by us, and that's, you know, kind of the challenge. So that kind of pushes everybody a little bit more near shore and starting to concentrate on that pre-fall bite in the backcountry, and that's all about the redfish. And that bite's still going. You know, we've been talking the last few weeks, you know, how unseasonable that bite has been for us, because that's typically, you know, the proverbial quote-unquote red October for us, what we're kind of known for. But they're here, and they're not in huge bunches, and they're not, you know, ton of overslot fish, but there are plenty of redfish to be had just by fishing, you know, the southernmost points and, you know, bars, oyster bars, shoals, any hard bottom area that extends off of an island. And that can be 2 football fields down by us. So, you know, keep that in mind. Definitely look at, you know, some topographical maps or your charts. You know, Google Earth's a great resource for that stuff in our area, because it is fairly a shallow water fishery, and you can pick up that stuff. But understanding just, you know, I call them the outside islands, and that to me, you know, if you look at, you know, a chart, it's everything that's kind of the southernmost islands, if you will, and that kind of spans from Marco. It really spans from Marco Island to all the way to Chokoloskee and a little bit beyond, to be honest with you. So look for those areas. You know, start with Google Earth, and then start refining it. But artificials are shining really good right now. Soft plastic paddle tail swim baits. You get a nice overcast day, or, you know, you're fishing early in the morning. Hard to beat top water. But you really just don't need that live bait. It's kind of run and gun fishing right now, and there's some, you know, decent snook in the mix. So keep that in mind.
Steve, do you also find that your bait dies quite a bit more when you've got a real high water temp in the summertime in your well?
I do, you know, and I've kind of, over time, I've tried to, you know, kind of go to fishing artificials, but something I've done for years is I take when I get anything over, you know, I say over 80, but I try, when a water temperature gets in the 80s, I have a fill and a recirculator on my boats, and I think the recirculator really helps. But what I do is I'll take an empty gallon of milk, fill it up, probably about 3/4 of the way, with water, freeze them, and then I bring one of those with me, and that helps cool that water down throughout the day and keeps it, it's a lot more dissolved oxygen and cooler water than there is hot water, and that trick has kind of saved me many times. And that works. Yep, and doesn't cost you a dime. So
that's outstanding. That's a very good one. I did learn a long time ago. Remember when we first started grinding fresh chum to make our own chum with? Yeah. Steve, if you decide to put up a gallon of chum, don't put a gallon of chum in a gallon Ziploc bag. Don't do that, Steve. Your wife will invite you to buy her a new freezer.
Yes, you would. That's you don't want to do that. You got to leave a little bit of room for expansion. That's why I said 3/4.
Hey, I got a question for you. Okay?
Yeah, what do you got?
All right, your neighbor, best buddy, whoever, high school classmate, just bought a new boat. He wants to fish just like you do. He says, "Don't worry about bringing anything. I got it all tricked out. Got my rods, got my reels, got everything." What did he forget? What are you going to stick in your tackle bag to make sure you have?
A GPS personal beacon.
Good point. Good point.
It's I don't care. Our area. A lot of inshore fisheries. There's landmarks and things like that. The minute you leave the dock, whether you're out of Chokoloskee or Marco, there is no civilization. It is a Lewis and Clark adventure, and you can. The topography is very similar, very hard. If you get stuck, which happens a lot in our area, and you need to spend the night, they've come down so much. These smaller ones that affix the life jackets now, they're $200, and to me, it's the greatest little thing in the world, because if something does go awry, and you need to be found, that will find you. And with all the money we spend on tackle, it's a big oversight. A lot of tournament organizations, more on the freshwater side, the bass guys are almost even requiring these on their life jackets now. So
that's a good idea.
I think it really is. And so I'd love to have tell you that he forgot the secret lure and all that stuff, but the reality is if you're not prepared on the safety side of it, doesn't matter what you have on board.
That's right. So. Not having the right lure can't completely ruin your day, but not having a PLB can completely ruin your day.
Yep.
Ain't exactly, no doubt. Yeah. Cap, we appreciate it as always. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Oh, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it too, Steve. Thank you so much. Steve Dahl from 10,000 Islands. Hey, I don't know about you, but I am really sick of being hot, and so are the biggest and best fish. You know what happens when the water gets so hot? They go deep like they always do. It doesn't matter where the water is. They're going to find the deepest spot to try and cool off. You name it. If it feeds deeper in the water column, it can't refuse a D.O.A. terrorize. It dives straight down and crawls across the bottom with an action that no deep feeder can resist. Whether it's a crappie deep under some lily pads or a tarpon rooting around a bridge piling, D.O.A. lures makes a size and color terrorize that they simply can't say no to. Flashing that big bright eye in front of any bottom-feeding game fish is just unfair. Hey, maybe that's why they call D.O.A. lures the unfair advantage. All right, let's head up the coast a little ways and check in with one Greg Stamper, our Southwest Region action spotter. Greg Stamper, is it raining on you?
Oh, it's trying to. It's in the distance right now. We already had our first couple showers, but there's some fire coming from the sky, Rick, and I don't like fire.
Uh-oh. We're not going to keep you on long then. Tell me about your fishing report.
Hey, the fishing in the back bays and stuff for the inshore guys, myself included, has been very good. The redfish bite continues just to be outstanding. I know we all get excited for Red October and all these big fish that come in then and get in these big schools. But it's already starting down here, and I don't know if that's just a strange thing because all year we've been catching a lot of good redfish, but the numbers of redfish we're catching and the size,
They're all in that medium slot to over slot by 4 or 5 inches.
Sweet.
Pretty much for everybody. Not a lot of small fish anywhere, but they're starting to group up a lot more. And, when they start grouping up in schools of like 10 to 15, it ain't going to be long before that big push of fish just moves in full speed.
Man, sounds to me like they're already there.
They are. It's been real good, Rick, all summer. It's just now we're getting those number days where we can literally go out there and mess around for a few hours and have a solid chance of catching 10, 12, 15 fish, which it's not even October yet,
That's excellent. Your tarpon doing okay?
Still going strong.
Good.
That's like the beginning of the morning, first light for us. And then, we move off and we do the red stuff afterwards. We haven't gotten a lot of big snook in these areas yet. That will probably happen as soon as we first get that first cool wave and those fish realize it's time to get off the beaches. They'll start to head to the passes, and then they'll get in the back bays and up in our rivers pretty good. I think that's when we're going to start talking about some of these big snook that we pick up that'll be over that 35-inch range. Plus, we've had a lot of mullet in the back bays, and the bigger tarpon have come in to our back bays, and they're really kind of like hanging out, waiting for these big mullet to come around. We don't have little mullet like I was talking to somebody the other day about it. They said the mullet runs on. I said, well, that's really not us on this side. That's on the East Coast.
Right.
And he saw some mullet. We had to pull up to a mangrove because he threw my popping flute 12 feet into it, like where the monkeys live. So we pulled up, and he goes, "Holy smokes! Look at all these redfish in here." And I looked down, and they were all mullet, Rick.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not used. He was from the East Coast. He wasn't used to seeing these, 4-pound mullets, which is what we have. We got these big mullets that are like fat, and he's used to seeing those mullet that come on the mullet run, which are more like 8, 9, 10 inches.
Well, so like what you're telling me is just like everybody else, the mullet go to Southwest Florida to retire, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right, man. That's exactly right. Now, the nearshore guys are still doing well. A lot of permit out there and a lot of cobia. This week was interesting. They caught a lot of cobia, but they were all small, like 30 inches.
Mm-hmm.
And ironically, I caught one in the back bay. So they're kind of out. They're all in the same cookie cutter type of thing. I don't know if the big ones are just doing their thing and they'll end up coming back. But the guys who've gone way offshore, it's still all about mangrove snappers and groupers, man. If you get out there past 100, 115 feet of water, they can wax them. It's just a long way to go around this neck of the woods.
Yeah, it is. For mangoes, it sure is. Greg, that's a great report. Let me let you get out of the lightning, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week.
Absolutely, Rick. I'm surprised we didn't hear any big booms.
Thank you, buddy.
Good day and tight line.
Take care.
You know what Yamaha Outboards love? The genuine formula and consistency of Yamalu marine engine oils. Outboards are subjected to punishing conditions like high loads, salt, and humidity, a mix that automotive oils can't handle. Yamalu full synthetic and marine performance formulas are certified to protect against friction and corrosion for reliable performance every time. Find Yamalu marine oils at your nearest Yamaha Outboard dealer. Locate them at yamahaaoutboards.com/dealers. Yamaha. Reliability starts here.
Hey, Raj, being consistent is the mark of a quality product. If you've been Florida's #1 chum for over 10 years, there's got to be a reason.
For 10 years, Tournament Master Chum has lived up to its name. That's why more tournament pros insist on Tournament Master than any other chum. It's the only chum with menhaden milk mixed right in. That means it gets the scent out faster and deeper than any other brand of chum. It comes in a grind size for every species from kingfish to catching bait. Your fishing time is way too precious to use second-rate chum. Bring the action to you by insisting on Tournament Master Chum. It's worth every penny.
When you're ready for the finest in custom-made flat spay or inshore-offshore hybrids, you are ready to meet the Young family in Inglis, Florida. For over 21 years, the Young family has built custom boats one at a time for every type of fishing. Nothing can sneak up on a flat quite like the Gulf Shore flats boats, and I've never fished a better hybrid than the Young 24s and 27s. Rob Young is a naval architect who takes tremendous pride in each and every build for each and every customer that wants their boat custom built exactly the way they want it. Is it time for you to move up? Are you ready to own the finest boat built? Then you need to visit the Young Boat facility in Inglis, Florida, or check them out online at youngboats.com. Time to move up into West Central and check in with Ray Markham. Ray, what are you seeing out there?
Yes, sir. I'm seeing red.
Good.
Not red tide, but redfish.
Good. Very good. Red tide all gone.
Well, I can't say it's all gone. You know, if you take a look at all the sampling maps that they have, the majority of the red tide that we're experiencing is offshore. Talking to some of the guys that are running well offshore, they're typically finding the majority of the red tide that they're seeing between 4 and 6 miles, which makes it a little bit difficult to, start with some live bait inshore and then run offshore and keep it alive. And the guys that are doing it, they're pretty much having to reduce the amount of live bait they've got, put it in like a bubbler type of a aerator. And then once they get beyond about 10 miles or more, then go ahead and start putting it in their regular live well. So that's kind of been a limitation of how much live bait they can take. But still frozen baits and cut baits are working very well for just about anything they're trying to catch offshore right now.
Oh, now are you talking mostly about bottom fish?
Yeah, actually, the last couple of weeks we've had a surprisingly good bite for mangrove snapper, and not just small snapper either. They've been much bigger compared to what they should be this time of year. Normally, you're looking at an average mango running around 3 to 5 pounds, but they've been getting them to 6 and a little bit more than that. Fishing offshore anywhere from like 100 to about 160 feet of water. And aside from that, I mean, they're still scattered fish all the way inshore. So,
good deal.
Everybody in the
state, everybody in the state's raving about this year's mangrove snapper bite.
Been good.
Yeah, sure has. That's outstanding, Ray. Your kingfish pretty well gone now?
No, they've hardly even begun.
Okay.
We don't really get our kingfish run until well into September or even October. As we approach the first cold fronts, that's when we really get a big push of fish. But all I got to do is just keep an eye on the panhandle and what kind of weather's going on up there. Then my good buddy William Tony, he usually gives a shout out when they're starting to catch them. But we're doing a few kingfish along the beaches, not many, but a few. And some of the better catches of kingfish have been on deep water wrecks. So that's a typical kind of thing. Although I think we're going to have a kingfish run well into December this year.
Gotcha.
And I'm just looking how warm it's been,
Yeah.
So
I'm ready to feel cool again. I promise you. I've been hot for too long.
I'm okay with the air conditioner on, man.
Oh, yeah, then there's that. All right, Ray. We appreciate it as always. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Yes, sir. We'll catch you then.
Thank you, Raymond. Captain Ray Markham. Time to head to Homosassa and see what William Tony is up to. William, how are you?
Doing good. Yeah, having nice weather going here over on the Big Bend.
It's a good deal. Yeah, we've been dry all week. You been dry over there?
It has been. The western side of the Gulf, not so much, but we finally dried out over here, and it's just been pleasant.
Yeah, I know what you mean. How's your fishing been?
Fishing has been good. Inshore bite, if you're looking to get trout, starting now through, October, early November is your prime time. Look for that yellow bottom anywhere around the western side of the St. Martin's Keys. And if you like the jig, that area up there toward Yankeetown and Crystal River, the spoil banks, along the edges of that, they've been getting some nice trout, nice snook, and redfish all along those spoil islands. So that's a great fishery, getting triple tail, getting some good mangrove snapper, very shallow, and the gag grouper bite's been really good.
Huh. Now you say you've been catching some triple tail. Are you getting a couple a day or just a few scattered around?
It is, it's a few scattered around, but some days, it's hard because our area is so spread out that if you have a couple key spots, it's almost like a good grouper rock.
Yeah.
You don't want to go and hit it every day.
Sure.
But I like to go and, every second or third day, I will go check it and let them build up on it. There's a lot of shorts, but, you get some nice keepers in there, up to about 20 to 24 inches.
and there's a lot of 17 and a halves. But the thing is, you know, you get an angler on board who's never caught a triple tail. From now through the end of the month, you know, is a good time to do it. Especially you get that darker water up towards Cedar Key. I talked to Jimbo Keith and them up that way, and Danny Allen a lot. And when they get the triple tail up towards Cedar Key around the clam leases and things like that, we don't have them here. And then they won't have any there, and all of a sudden they're showing up down here. But I will tell you, if you fish down in the south area toward Homosassa, Chris River, the darker water areas are better, and they prefer like an old, if you're going for buoys, you know, you want to find an old one that's crusty and got a lot of snot grass on it and things like that. They really like it. And the range markers around Cheswiska Preserve, and certain markers going out of Homosassa and even down south toward Cheswiska actually will hold them. You know, you're just going to have to explore and find which ones. And I like to run past it very closely and look hard. Now, a lot of times I've found over the years certain poles will hold the fish and they're down deep. So on those instances, the ones that I feel that they're on, I'll shut down and let the wind, you know, slowly blow me past it. And I'll throw a cork rig with a shrimp on there about 18 inches under a cork. Just let it go real close. And a lot of times you'll see them come up. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to go for the cork first.
Yep.
And you can get the juvies, but, you know, if there's a big one in there, you may have to cull through them to get to that big one. But one thing you will do, if you pressure them too much, you'll shut them off and you're not going to get a chance.
Yep. They are really, really spooky. I've seen them do. I decided one time in my youth, like a long time ago in my youth, I was going to catch one that was laying on top of the water, and I was going to throw a cast net on him. Okay? William, those boogers are so fast. I'm serious. I threw the cast net. As soon as the water cleared where you could see, the triple tail was exactly where I had thrown the net. He just
came back over the top.
Right back up at the top and laid there. And did it 2 times, and I obviously it didn't do me any good to throw after that. I knew it wasn't going. That was the end of it. But, man, are they quick, and, man, do they spook easy.
Very similar story when I used to work on stone crab boats. Up in the wheelhouse, the captain would yell down, "Hey, buoy fish," and we had a dip net. And if you're quick, you could get them. And sometimes even hauling in the trap, they would chase it right up to the boat, like no, all the way to the back of the stern, and just crazy. But if you're quick enough, you could get a quick jab at them and sometimes dip them up. But that was back in the day. I don't think I'm that quick anymore.
Yeah, I know I'm not. Hey, let me ask you a question, even though I know you're not that quick anymore. All right, your neighbor, your buddy, just bought a boat like yours and wants to do the same kind of fishing that you do. And he says to you, "Don't worry about bringing anything. I've got all the tackling rigs and all that you need." What are you sneaking in your tackle bag that you're willing to bet he's forgotten and doesn't have?
Oh, man. In our area, there's only 3 things I would need if I was to go out. And that's a funny question because, man, I tell you what, I had a longtime client of mine who just bought a young 24. He's had it for about he's had it for about a year. I know one day I got to get out there. He was, in fact, down at McRae's today, and I got to touch and feel it. It's a beautiful boat. But if I was going out on that thing, I would have a MirrOlure top dog with a red head and white body. I would have an Eppinger Rex gold spoon in a 1/4 ounce. And then I would have a D.O.A. 1/8 ounce jig head with a bag of watermelon red flake Little Johns from MirrOlure. That's all I'd have.
That's hard to
Right in my pocket. Right in my pocket. Be sneaky.
Yep.
I wouldn't show them.
Yep. No. Don't whip them out unless you need them.
No.
Cap, thanks so much. Thanks so much for that. And please tell me we can check with you next week.
I'll be right here in downtown Homosassa.
Keep them straight, Cap. Talk to you soon. Our thanks to William Toney for a great Big Bend report. Now let's move into Northwest Florida and check in with Kevin Lanier. Kevin, how are you?
Hey, Captain Rick, we're doing good today. How about yourself?
Doing outstanding. Have you been able to get offshore at all?
We have been able to get offshore. We got one trip in this week, and we had a good day. We had some, got some triggers, some beeliners. We got a couple of black snappers, so it was a good day. We got a nice bag of fish.
Good. Kevin, is your fishing over there for vermilions and triggerfish declining, getting better, or staying the same?
Declining.
Declining, really?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
not.
I think we're doing fine. Let me clarify that. I think the triggers are fine.
Yeah.
There's 10 small triggers for one keeper. But one thing I've noticed over the last this last year has been a decline in the number of vermilions.
I'll be darned. Huh. Now, I haven't seen that on the East Coast yet. That's kind of strange.
Well, one thing we noticed this summer was there were fewer vermilions, but they were a lot bigger.
Yeah, you told me you had some monsters this year. Didn't you have a 7 this year?
We had a 6.
A 6. Woo! That's a monster vermilion.
Yep, it is.
But your numbers are down, you think?
I think they are. I mean, I'm not seeing the catches that we've had in the years past.
Okay, all right. You hearing anything going around? What's happening inshore? You heard anything?
Well, we still got a pretty good pocket of redfish swimming around St. Joe Bay and down along the Cape and the beach. If you can find them, you're guaranteed slot fish and a limit for the boat. But they're like a big herd of elk. You're having to hunt them.
Yeah, I understand that. And speaking of hunting, it won't be long, will it?
No, I've got guys that are ready to pack up the fishing rods and get out the guns.
Yeah, we got to have a little cool first. Thank you so much, Kevin. We always appreciate your reports. Please tell me we can check with you next week.
Captain Rick will be here waiting on you.
I'll look forward to it. Our thanks to Kevin Lanier and all of our action spotters. Golly, it's been a lot of fun going around the state tonight. You know what? We're hearing a lot of the same. The mullet seem to be kind of hung up. They're between St. Augustine where they're thick and down around Rockledge and Mosquito Lagoon in that area where they are not. So right in that area is the beginning of the mullet run, which doesn't seem to be moving very fast. Now, surf fishing up in Northeast Florida has gotten very good. There's been some surprisingly good Wahoo fishing out in the deep water, and Captain David Borges reported excellent red fishing now that we've gotten past a little bit of that flooded grass. The flooded grass is pretty good, but since it's passed, the fishing's got even better. You work your way on down around Jim Ross. They're starting to see the mullet. They're just getting there. There's some snook in them. There's a few tarpon in them. Not a whole lot. Down around Captain John Earhart, they got some mahi. They're not real big, and they're a long ways off. They're about 18 miles off. But the numbers are very good. The first good numbers of mahi we've seen in a while, because when you get south of him down to Miami, Alan Sherman reports that there isn't any mahi around to speak of. Just one here, one there. Come around to the 10,000 Islands, and Steve Dahl says it's not October yet, but the hunt for reds is on. The reds have been doing very, very well. Come up to West Central, same deal, all the way up there. Ray Markham says most of the red tide has moved offshore, and the red fish are biting like crazy. On up into the Panhandle, I was really surprised to hear Kevin Lanier say that their vermilion population seems to be down. I think that's a cycle because I don't think we're putting too much pressure on them. Triggerfish seem to be doing fine. All right, I guess the most exciting fish of the week would have to be the numbers of Wahoo that we're seeing more of in Northeast and in Central Florida. That's good news. Mangroves are good all over. As for us, you know we're going to be back next week, just like we are every week. Florida Sportsman Action Spotter is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. By Shimano, bringing people and nature back together. By Tournament Master Chum, the best chum on earth. By Nosara Paradise Rentals, your dream vacation. By D.O.A. Lures, the unfair advantage. And by Young Boats. You want the finest in flat spay and offshore hybrids? You need to check out youngboats.com. Until next week, I'm Captain Rick Riles, and we will see you on the rip.